Chapter 5, you are always choosing. Often, the only difference between a problem being painful or being powerful is the sense that we choose it and that we are responsible for it. That's on page 91. Further on down, it says, when we feel that we're choosing our problems, we feel empowered. When we feel that our problems are being forced against our will, we feel victimized and miserable. That definitely resonated with me whilst reading it. The choice, and I'm going to ask a question with this excerpt. There is a simple realization from which all personal improvement and growth emerges. This is the realization that we individually are responsible for everything in our lives, no matter the external circumstances. And that's on page 94. Can you accept everything you experience is down to your own choice?
No. No, it's not. He's already, look, I know I'm just, it's paraphrasing, but he's already mentioned in the book where he says, when life gives, goes back to when life gives you lemons. Like I might be born into a family for crack addicts, whatever, but it's my choice how I accept that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I choose to do with that. Whether I choose to use that as a springboard to
say... You just said no. You said no, you can't accept it.
Can't say what he said.
Right, ask the question again and I'll explain again.
So can you accept everything you experience is down to your own choice?
And I say no, and I say no again.
Yeah.
And the reason I say no is because it's not your fault you're born into this...
Yeah, I get you now.
Yeah, into this family. But the choice is how you deal with it. Yeah. The choice is whether you use a springboard, whether you say... Well, born into shit, so I ain't gonna be shit, and I'm just gonna do this. And sometimes, especially the example I was given, if you're born into low-income family or poverty or alcoholic or abusive parents or mum, whatever, that gives you the inner urge to really want to achieve more. And because you know what real pain is, when you have setbacks, you know that they don't even scratch the surface on the pain you've experienced. And that might even give certain people a springboard to achieve greatness in their lives. So my answer is no. You? Yourselves?
I totally agree with what you said. So my answer is yes and no though. And the reason why I say that is because I feel that I think whether someone to give an example, whether it's your friends, I'm going to use your friends for example. So for example, if you group yourself or hang around with friends which by and large are maybe up to no good as such, then the things that are going to spur off that are going to be things such as potentially getting in trouble, and obviously from there you put yourself in a position where you may potentially obviously get arrested, go to jail and stuff like that. Whereas you hang out with a group of friends which are, I'm going to say, of a more positive mindset, then you're likely to achieve things or garner things of that nature as well. Yeah. So that's my view, but I definitely understand, obviously depending on your circumstances, it can be very, very difficult.
I think for me personally, I'm starting to accept it more, that it is my choice, in terms of, instead of putting the blame on external circumstances or putting the blame on someone else, even if it may seemingly be their fault or it's not my fault, I'll take the blame for things like, alright, so someone's crashed into me or something like that. I'll be like, well, like, my mindset now is more like, well, maybe I shouldn't have been there. Maybe I should have left 5 minutes earlier, or whatever it may be. But I'm accepting what's happened to me and not putting the blame on them. It's whatever it is. I'm accepting the circumstances for what it is and not allowing someone else to almost have the power to then determine what I accept and what I don't accept, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah. It's almost like your spin on it, really.
Yeah, it's my spin in terms of, okay, well, I'm going to accept it for what it is. That was my fault. Carry on, move on. You know what I mean? I'm taking responsibility for it. Whatever it is, I'm taking responsibility for it. That's my interpretation of that, anyway. We don't always control what happens to us, but we always control how we interpret what happens to us, as well as how we respond. Whether we like it or not, we are always taking on an active role in what's occurring to and within us. And as I was writing that down, I did think that sounds very much like The Secret, and I know we discussed that.
I highlight those exact two things.
Further on down, he mentions the responsibility fault fallacy, and he gives an example using the short man story. Well, I've noted it down as a short man story.
Short man syndrome.
But yeah, it's on page 96 where the man talks, he's a short man, and he talks about, I think it's the women, always, they don't like him because of his height, but that was his perception. So yeah, no, that was something that I thought was a good spin on how to dictate how you view the world. A lot of people hesitate to take responsibility for their problems.
Get your money up, B. Floyd's a short. Floyd Mayweather's a short man, boy.
A lot of people hesitate to take responsibility for their problems. Me, because they believe that to be responsible for your problems is to also be at fault for your problems. Page 97. Do you reactively blame external factors when problems occur? It's a bit of a follow-on from the last question.
Do you
reactively blame external factors when problems occur?
Yes and no, and it depends on the situation. I'll give you an example from earlier today in my life where I missed a train by literally 15 seconds. It was one of them overground ones that runs from, I was going West Ealing from Ealing Broadway, and I think it's coming in on the district line in from somewhere else, and I literally missed the train by 15 seconds. Obviously I wait for another one, it's 15 minutes time, but that wasn't, in my head, it was no fault of my own, because the district line train I was on got held at red signals. Then you know when it stops in the tunnel and just like, yo, I'm in danger of missing my next train.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I'd left earlier,
exactly what I was gonna say,
I'd have been fine. So it was me, like, you know, cutting it down to trying to be, exactly. Yeah. So it was a catch-22. So it's a bit of yes and no, and that's the only, because it happened earlier today. That's all I can think of at the moment. I'm sure there's other situations where you probably say it's external, and there's other situations where it's nothing to do with external, it's your own. But I can't think of those at the moment. What about yourself?
Again, I think it's through growth that my answer changes. It's through me realising, okay, as you said, when you pointed out, for example, if I was in the same situation, I could have easily have been like previously, the train that took the piss and the holding up, but my mindset now would be like, realistically, I should have just left earlier. If I want to really be on time, or if I wanted to get that specific time, to avoid any confusion, I should have got the previous train before. That's my mindset now. So I can definitely say no, I don't try and blame external factors, but I have, and I know what it feels like to blame external factors. It's the easy thing to do.
Yesterday, well, without giving the dates and stuff, I went to a cricket match. To my granddad and my cousin and my uncle. We went to a cricket match, and we only got to see an hour and a half of play. Reason being the weather. It rained, and we couldn't determine what the weather was going to be when we got the tickets.
Yeah.
We didn't know, obviously close to the time it was going to rain. We can't tell the weather to stop raining. We can't move the whole game to a venue which is covered in cricket. Do you know what I mean? That was all external.
But how did you react though?
I didn't. Well, it was just.
You accepted it for what it was.
Yeah, but it was external factors.
Yeah.
All like 100% external factors. Do you know what I'm saying?
But yeah.
The only other thing I could have done is book the game in a country where done my research, found out where it's least likely to rain in the world at a certain date where cricket's played, and book my flight there and take my granddad there, knowing I've got less of a chance of rain.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to blame external factors in that. Like, I know we give an example about the train and being late and stuff like that. Me, more often than not, with work, in recent time, it's been my fault as to why I've been late. So I try to look no further than obviously my own doorstep, really, as to stuff like that. And I just look back and think to myself, you know what, actually that was my fault. I could have done this, that, and the third to have prevented this situation. As Mason said, like, I can't really prevent or stop external factors. So for me, the answer is no. I know there's a like excerpt in here where it talks about judges don't obviously choose their cases and stuff like that. Just go into the court and then from there, obviously deal with the circumstances as to the consequences they need to give out and stuff like that. So very similar to that, a poker game and stuff like that. You kind of deal with the hand that you got. I just get on with it. I mean, ultimately, the worst has happened now, so now I need to move on.
Cool. We are responsible for the experiences that aren't our fault all the time. This is part of our life. Fault is past tense. Responsibility is present tense. Responding to tragedy is the next part. Do you guys recall the story of Malala?
Yes.
That's on page 103, 104.
Yeah.
It was a well-known story.
It was popular in the news. Yeah. I remember. Did you come to London and all that? And
Yeah.
I remember that.
I mean, like how she dealt with tragedy is amazing. Like, just reading it again and recalling the story.
Yeah.
How she's battled on. Obviously, she's gone on to do good things.
You know, I completely forgot that she had actually been shot
in the face.
Yeah, bro. I completely forgot that. I knew at the time something tragic happened, but I completely forgot that she got shot in the head, in the face.
That's hard.
And very brave as well. I mean, because I think she kind of like put her hand up and said, "Yo."
Yeah. So she was on the bus, and I think gunmen stormed. They were looking for her, but they didn't know who she was.
They was going to basically threaten to kill someone else if they didn't.
14. I'm just looking back. 14, you know.
Yeah.
And she had people looking for her.
Yeah, because she was defiant. She wanted to go to school still.
Yeah. I respect that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that that was a good story within the book. Genetics and the hand of a doll. I mean, before we move on, is there anything else that you wanted to mention on responding to tragedy?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, just in the very beginning, I think of that topic, it talks about how people deal with tragedies, and I just thought it might be an interesting, maybe question as to how people like dealt with tragedies in recent time. Like, it might be like a death of a family member, or it might be something, completely different. I mean,
do you know what? We're going to discuss it later on in the book, I think, because I think he goes into a bit more detail later. And everyone does deal with things differently. The way I know it's going to sound mad. I don't know if it's going to sound. I know I'm not a cold person. I know it's going to sound mad, but I think Mark himself even says, when you come to the realization, acceptance that you are going to die at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fear it as much, or you don't fear the people around you passing, because you know everyone has to die, or you can deal with it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think I've come to that realization quite a few years ago. So when people around me pass, like, I've seen people around me that are also close to those people who have passed go on antidepressants, like really break down, really not take it well.
Well, can I ask, just to interrupt, was it expected death or was it sudden death?
The ones that have come into mind I haven't really had close to me sudden deaths. It's been people expected.
You're expecting it.
Yeah.
How do you think you would react though if it was a sudden death?
Don't know actually.
And that's the thing. I mean, I totally get what you mean.
Even with expected death, people around me have really struggled.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, I don't know why I'm thinking of my dad in particular. I'm thinking of his sister. This was many moons ago. I'm trying to think. We were just entering sixth form at the time, and we used to see his sister like, all the time. And then obviously there was his close friend. I just come back from Brazil. I'm gonna see the World Cup, and then obviously very recently my uncle had a brain hemorrhage. Anyway, like seizure. I'm gonna say anyway. I'm not too sure exactly what it was. And I've never seen him really waver as to, or really break down. I'm not necessarily talking about crying. I've never seen a real change in it. Obviously, he's very disappointed, and he's shown he's very, very disappointed. And you can see, like, he might talk to himself like, yo, like, blah, blah, blah. In fact, there's been an odd time, actually, where I've heard him talking to himself when he's sleeping about a situation. But barring that, I've never, like, really... But whereas myself, in all those situations there, I'm trying to think of... I'm thinking of one person in particular, one person who passed, where this dude like was always looking on the bright side kind of thing, you know what I mean? And the last tune they played was "Don't Worry, Be Happy." Yo, people just were finished, mate, because he must have had that same impact on everyone else. So for that song to play, I was like, yo, this is mad, man. I can't sit here, so I had to leave, mate. Not in a bad way, but you know, I needed a moment to myself. Yeah. And but the same was also for another person as well, where I thought it was quite nice because I didn't expect to be emotional in any way, shape, or form on the day because I didn't know this person that long. But they had like a highlight reel of their, I won't say of their life, but like I forget the song they played. I'll probably find it in just a moment. It was a really good song to go with the theme. But they had literally things from, I'm going to say, from a young age up until obviously to the moment or to the point the person suddenly actually died. I mean, it was just a lovely atmosphere kind of thing, you know what I mean? And those type of things put in perspective as to who they were and what they stood for. So, in terms of responding to tragedy, myself, I kind of think about obviously what the person stood for, and I try to carry that with me and use that energy.
Cool. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Genetics and the hand were dealt. So victimhood chick. The responsibility fault fallacy allows people to pass off the responsibility for solving their problems to others. This ability to alleviate responsibility through blame gives people a temporary high and a feeling of moral righteousness, and that's on page 110. Fake outrage springs to mind when I heard that. A lot of people protest for something for the day, then forget about the cause a day later, literally. People get addicted to feeling offended all the time because it gives them a high. Being self-righteous and morally superior and feels good. That's on page 112. Is there anything that you want to add to genetics and the hand were dealt?
Yeah, sorry, just on victimhood chic. Like honest, is the biggest problem with victimhood chic is that it sucks attention away from actual victims. It's like the boy who cried wolf. I was listening to LBC just very briefly today, and it was they're talking about I think the exact same problem. And what is it? Oh, fake news. Fake news. So I think they're putting in a law in regards to that on fake, like social media and stuff like that, trying to bring some sort of legislation into place. And I think I forget the name of the presenter, Majid Nawaz or something along those lines. I think what he was saying was, is stuff like that. What it does, I might be explaining this wrong as well, is if we start putting filters over people, you start almost like blocking out people's opinions, dare I say. So he gave an example where he goes, do me a favour, just speak. And what he did, they put a mute on his voice, and you didn't hear nothing for about 10 seconds, and he pressed unmute and goes, do you know what I did? And he goes, what? He goes, I just pressed mute. He goes, if we start doing that, then you start like unfortunately steering where you want the conversation to go and stuff like that, which
has been happening on our news
for a long time. And then also
that's mass media in itself.
It is. And I had a conversation with someone before in regards to obviously the over PC, like the political correctness and stuff like that, over one or two bits and pieces that I've generally kind of felt outraged or felt disgusted about. In that I felt that because I don't say you're attracted to such, but with your social media print and stuff like that, like if you say something which people, I won't say the large majority of people don't necessarily agree with, then unfortunately you're victimized, or you can find yourself in trouble for having an opinion which you generally actually feels right. Which again, obviously, is wrong, truth be told, because I think everyone should be allowed to express their opinion and their thought.
Yeah, to an extent. I agree and I don't agree. Obviously, I think everyone's got a right to their own opinion, don't get me wrong. But when it becomes with pure ignorance and pure hatred, that's when you kind of have to draw the line, I think.
I definitely agree with that, because I think social media allows any and anyone really to have an opinion, and truth be told, a lot of them don't have any real...
It's with no substance or...
Yeah, no substance whatsoever, and unfortunately, I think that's what I think the title of the chapter, I think, kind of goes down.
Moving on slightly into the next part of the chapter, there is no, inverted brackets, how. You are already choosing in every moment of every day what to give a fuck about. So change is as simple as choosing to give a fuck about something else. It really is that simple. It's just not easy. It's on page 113. Do you want to add anything to that? I haven't made any more notes.
No, I'm good.
Mace?
No.
Chapter 6 then. Growth is an endlessly irritative process, When we learn something new, we don't go from wrong to right, rather we go from wrong to slightly less wrong than that, and then to even less wrong than that, and so on. We are always in a process of approaching truth and perfection without actually ever reaching truth and perfection. And that's on page 117. This is for you guys. Are you aware of your own growth, and any examples?
I'm gonna say I'm aware of my own growth. I'm aware of my own growth, but I think where I've noticed my own growth is obviously following maybe a situation. But I think where I've probably seen my own growth is following maybe traveling. So I've travelled for long periods of time twice. And I think following those adventures, I've looked back and forth, and so I've definitely learned loads about myself, or I've learned a lot more about either the world or other people and stuff like that.
Cool.
So I've been able to see growth in myself.
What about you, Mish? Are you aware of your own growth?
I don't know. That's the honest truth. I actually don't know.
Oh wow.
I don't know.
I'm a bit stunned with that.
I'm trying to think. Am I aware of my own growth? I feel like I have grown as a person, but I'm trying to think of examples. Like where I would have done something different. Well, obviously there's examples where you would have done something different 10 years ago to now, but it's weird. It's a weird one. It's a hard one to answer on the spot for me. I think I'd have to really sit down and think about it.
For me, just doing this, me sitting there with you lot doing this podcast is growth for me. I would never have done this 10 years ago, say, if you want to put 10 years on it. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been willing to sit down and have an open and frank conversation about any form of topic, whether it's relationships or diet, or whatever it may be, masks of masculinity and so on and so forth. Like that for me is one of many growths that I've seen, and even within that, in the same realm of just kind of opening up and being a bit more open to just converse and give a bit more of myself, whereas before I was totally closed off altogether. I'm still working on it out, but there's definitely been a growth from prior to how I was previously, shall I say.
I see another place where I've definitely identified growth, because I know their milestones. So I watch stuff on YouTube quite often, and sometimes they speak about the growth from, you're definitely not the same person in 18, 21, 25, and I think 30. Obviously I know there's a few other ages as well, and I often look back as to those ages. When I look back when I was 18, definitely I'm going to say, not by and large, but material things were definitely things like more on my radar, dare I say. At 21-ish, I was at I'd begun working at Fulham at the time, so I was now very early career. I'm thinking about that type of stuff, so I think my head was down as to focus and stuff like that, but at the same time I was now open to conversation and stuff like that. And when I mean conversation, in terms of maybe open up and talking about how I feel, in terms of how I felt and stuff. 25, when did we go to Brazil?
I can't remember.
In fact, you know what? I was at the back end of working at Fulham, so now at this point, I've definitely got a lot more focus about me in terms of.
How about if we went to Brazil?
26.
I was going to say 24. Maybe that's too young.
Yeah, I was 26 because the year after I was 27 when I went South America. It was bang straight away the following year. So so anyway, from 21, again, probably a bit more career focus and stuff like that. Then when we went travelling, different person. Even when I came up from Brazil, I was a totally different person, because by then I'd opened in a conversation with someone about travelling, and I'm like, what is this, like a completely new world? And it's like, I want to know what that's about.
Do you know what, to be honest, now that you guys have given me some tips or pointers, I can see
Definitely.
that I've definitely grown. Like 18 to like 18, 19, 20, there'll be times I'll be out from Thursday to Monday, just clubbing and
We were wild, boy.
BS. You'd have links, what we used to refer to them, I don't know what these used to get females kind of pleasurable.
Real PC of it. What, females pleasurable?
Yeah, for pleasurable instances, you have them dotted around everywhere, you'd be willing to drive to wherever they are, and who's got time for that now, real talk? And obviously the whole travel, because obviously your holidays then, just because you bought holidays, your holidays then was like Malia and these shag fests basically, and boozy places. Like right now I'm trying to see the world. I want to see how a man in, you know what I mean? I don't even know that Antarctica's living compared to my life, and live with him for a day. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to like really experience life, and it's and everything that comes with it, if that makes sense.
I think that comes naturally with maturity, but
Yeah.
not everyone is able to recognize their own growth or even be aware that they have grown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of wanted to see, was you, either one of you was aware of it.
Yeah.
Certainty is the enemy of growth, and this is one of the quotes I've highlighted because this is something I want to go back to.
Yeah.
Certainty is the enemy of growth. Nothing is for certain until it has already happened, and even then it's still debatable. That's why accepting the inevitable imperfections of our values is necessary for any growth to take place. Now, that's on page 119. Being wrong opens up to the possibility of change. Being wrong brings the opportunity for growth. That's on page 19 as well. Are you happy to be wrong?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, I've got no problem being. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, innit?
Yeah,
I'm wrong, man.
I've got no problem being wrong at all. Like, again, obviously, so what was the quote? It was...
Some people, they just can't accept it, bro. They're stubborn. There used to be a quote that used to go around, wrong and strong. Like, some people know, even when they know they're wrong, they just be like, nope.
Yeah.
Or they'll just argue their point across.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people just, I don't know what it is, but if I'm wrong, man. Simple as, okay.
Have you always been like that, though? Or has it been a case of, again, growth and maturity?
Definitely growth and maturity. I'm not too sure specifically when, because at some point I started throwing around a phrase, not something that I've told people. I'll be telling them I don't know nothing. So when people are talking to me, we're having a professional conversation. I don't know whether it's because I don't say achieved a lot, but I'd done a lot at a really young age, so I was quite confident. So if people were talking to me about the job, dare I say, they may say something I might disagree with, but at the same time, they may continue to say something which might open my eyes, and I'll just try not to be ignorant to what they're telling me and just take in information. I may use some of the information, but at the same time, I may decide to discard the information as well.
Mm-hmm. I think we should get that phone gel. I think that for when we're doing the studio, we should get that phone gel. I'm playing, you should know. We know, you should know.
So just very, very quickly, you mentioned something on the certainty, so I want to go. I don't want to lose it. You were talking about the hypothesis of there is the hypothesis of our values. So our values are our hypothesis, and this behavior is good and important. That other behavior is not, and our actions are the experiments, the resulting emotions that. Sorry, read that again. Our values are our hypothesis. This behavior is good and important. That other behavior is not. Our actions are the experiments, the resulting emotions and thought patterns are our data. I just felt that was quite cool and quite important. So just say, for example, well, I can't even give it a good example, but the emotion per se is the hypothesis, and then you're thinking about the action. Yeah. And then if you feel differently, as in the data, it might not quite marry up with the hypothesis as such, and that's where you may need to question it.
Yeah, that's the cognitive bias. I was gonna actually geek out.
I didn't even know what that is, but you can go into it because I've just literally
I kind of geeked out on it. That
did you?
Yeah, because I'm gonna take an excerpt from it. Then I kind of done a bit of background research because it made, as soon as it said that, something else sprang into my mind, and something else did, and I've kind of. Yeah, I'm just gonna read it out.
Cool, dude. I had an example. I thought I had an example, but it's a poor example. But you might break it down better.
The comedian Emo Phillips, and this is part of the book as well. The comedian Emo Phillips once said, "I used to think the human brain was the most wonderful organ in my body. Then I realised he was telling me this. This unfortunate fact is most of what we come to know and believe is the product of the innate inaccuracies and biases present in our brains. Many or even most of our values are products of events that are not representative of the world at large, or of the result of a totally misconceived past." That's on page 123. Now, it goes on to when I actually read this, I thought of cognitive bias. Now, a cognitive bias is a mistake in reasoning, evaluating, remembering, or other cognitive processes, often occurring as a result of holding on to one's preferences and belief regardless of contrary information. Psychologists study cognitive biases as they relate to memory, reasoning, and decision making. And again, as I said, I kind of started geeking out, and when I've heard of that, it went on. I found something else called confirmation bias. Now, confirmation bias is our tendency to actively seek information which confirms our pre-existing beliefs and disregard information which might contradict it. An example of a cognitive bias would be if you believe that your spouse is a bad cook, you might notice all the times he has managed to ruin your dinner, but disregard the times when he has whipped a mean buttered roast. Do not worry, restaurants are also at fault when it comes to cognitive biases. This tendency originates from our desire to organize our world meaningfully and avoid feeling cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a feeling of internal discomfort which occurs when your beliefs contradict your attitudes and actions, or the other way around. It originates from Festinger's 1957 cognitive dissonance theory, which suggests that in order to feel in harmony, we need to feel that our beliefs and attitudes are consistent between themselves. So, for example, if you believe that you should eat healthily and go to McDonald's for dinner, you might feel cognitive dissonance afterwards because you've cheated on your beliefs. Likewise, if you believe that you should vote on voting day but you end up not going, you might feel cognitive dissonance because you did not stay true to yourself. So beware. The result of all of this, most of our beliefs are wrong, or to be exact, all beliefs are wrong. Some are just less wrong than others, and that's on page 123. You was going to say something?
No, I was going to say it was a very good example.
Okay, cool. Just one other, well, not one other one, but the next one being, if we're wrong all the time, then isn't self-skepticism and rigorous challenging of our own belief and assumptions the only logical route to progress? And that's on page 129. Do you think if we challenge every thought and belief system we have, we would be left in limbo?
If we challenge every single thought
and belief system that we have.
So is that a question you got from the book or a question you've just...
I just asked it.
Belief system. I think you've got to challenge your belief systems,
Yeah.
Based on the theory that we've just thrown up.
Yeah.
But I think very similar to booking, not giving an F about certain bits and pieces. You can't be here questioning every single thing every single day. I think your belief systems, not that you should only have a couple, but I don't think they should be a wide ranging.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you should challenge your belief systems. But if you've got loads, then you might be all over the place.
What about you? Because when I ask the question, I see your face like.
No. Question. How are your beliefs? What gives you belief systems? How are your belief systems developed? How do you form your certain belief systems?
I think they're constantly changing, and that's why our
how are they first installed? How do you give me one belief system of yours and how you came about that?
I believe that you should treat others how you want to be treated.
What's installed that in you?
That's from parents and family.
Right, so you asked a question about if you're what did you say? Something to do with challenging.
Do you think if we challenge every thought and every belief system, that would be left in limbo?
My answer to that is that belief system that came from your parents, since it's been installed in you from young, at some point I'm guessing that it's still resonating with you now.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the point I'm trying to get to is that if you've got a number of belief systems, you've built these up over a certain amount of time. So they've been installed in you, or you've installed them in you yourself.
Yeah.
You've installed them in yourself, and therefore you probably wouldn't challenge them.
Yeah, not at all. I don't agree with that at all, because I was raised in a Christian house, and not even a Christian house, within a Christian family, and I'm not going to say it was very religious, but we was made to believe everything in the Bible was the gospel and that was the truth. Whereas now, my thought and my view on it is totally different. I'm not bent up on this whole specific religion thing. Like, I'm very much more in touch with being spiritual and having a relationship with
higher power.
I forget the word I want to use, but yeah, a higher power, so to speak, if you want to use that term. But I'm not going to be, and that's through challenging the beliefs that I've been told as when I was a youth from parents and the community and going to the school that I went to, and those were typical beliefs that was being told and what I would thought was true, but I've challenged them and my thoughts have now changed.
So
they're constant. I think for me personally, it's always a constant change.
I remember I used to want an example because up until a certain age, you can make your own thoughts, form your own thoughts, opinions, and make your own decisions. But at the same time, they're heavily influenced. Maybe I was thinking more along the lines of the age we're at now with what we call grown men. And if we've, I don't know. I just think stuff I believe now, as in belief systems. Like for instance, for me, mine was quite a. Would you call it spiritual karma?
Yeah.
Would you call that spiritual, or it's not?
Yeah,
it's not something that's.
Yeah, but you call it spiritual. Yeah. Karma. Yeah.
That's a belief system that I have.
Is that been installed with you from the get go?
No, I don't know. What's happening with that one? No, cause it wasn't from. It's something that it's. I don't know how to explain.
Going back to the original question though, do you believe that if you challenge every thought and every belief system that you'll be left in limbo?
Part of me does. I mean, the example I was going to give was I believe it's a simple one. It's in regards to fairness, which is a value in itself, really. So I think I like to believe we're all brought up to believe in fair as such, but later on in life you understand obviously life isn't fair, and then I think what you find is people would then start challenging, or you personally start challenging the thought process in regards to fairness. This is right, this is wrong, this is not fair and stuff like that. Some people decide, you know what, I'm going to continue being fair and doing what is right, and some people say, you know what, I'm going to start rubbing their hands and think, you know what, I'm actually going to start going down this path, because guess what, being fair hasn't got me anything. And then that's where you almost have a divide. I don't want to say good and bad or good and evil and stuff like that, but I think you kind of maybe get my example.
Yeah. No, I understand.
What about you, Namesh? Pardon me.
Now, I would challenge mine, but I still know now. I believe
You've
this.
got your core beliefs.
Yeah, I've got my core beliefs.
Still What about you, Namesh?
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm at, and I'm not really getting the words out properly. Where
So I've got a list of values.
I don't think I'll be left in limbo. There's been certain times, I'll be honest, and this is not recent, but before, like it's happened a couple of times where I've sat, you probably both of you have probably thought this at some points in your life, where you just sit back and you're like, yo, what is life really about? And you sit there,
I think everyone on this planet must think that.
And you're just like, and then you get to the, why am I even here? Like, you start thinking mad deep thoughts,
existential questions,
and that's like the kind of limbo I've experienced, and I don't think it's related to my
values.
Yeah, but it's definitely just like,
I think that's more of a general life. What is life? What is the meaning to life? That's not really about your value. I mean, you could kind of say it's part of your values, because then that may dictate how you will live, like whether you live by season a day or not, because you might think, well, I'm literally a grain of sand in this mighty system, complete. So either everything that I do has an effect, or anything I do doesn't have an effect. It depends how you want to view it. Like you may view it like the way I view it. I think everything that we do has an effect on the world, as I was explaining last time. Like if you go and just simply smile at someone, that will make their day, and then that will make someone else's day by their. Do you know what I mean? So it's just energy. I just think it's pure energy that keeps on getting rotated around.
So I think truth be told, I didn't really have an answer to your question. That's
fine. It's a backwards law again. The more you try to be certain about something, the more uncertain and insecure you will feel. But the converse is true as well. The more you embrace being uncertain and not knowing, the more comfortable you'll feel in knowing that what you don't know. I like that.
I like it. Do you know why? There's certain times, have you ever heard of the saying, play fool to catch the wise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Play fool to catch the wise. Yeah. And like, I know it's gonna sound mad, but sometimes there's subjects I know sweet FA on, and there's subjects that I know a little bit, but not enough to be formulated, to be casting an opinion. Casting my opinion, portraying that out to the public or the general masses who might have more experience or actually have a more structured and formulated opinion than I do. But there's other times I really like people to ramble on, because I might be taking little bits of snippets of information I'm learning, But at the same time, B, I'm just waiting for you because I might have a little something that I know already. I'm waiting for you to, and because I'm letting you ramble on and you think that I'm just gulping and digesting like an obedient fool every single little bit of information you're saying, I'm just waiting for you to kind of not fuck up, but feed me something I know is absolute BS, and then I know that you as a person, if you're the type to try and feed man a BS sandwich, and then I know what to take from you and what to take with a pinch of salt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or whether to use to think of you and think, if I need a source of information, is this guy going to be 100%? Or is he going to give me what he thinks and ramble? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Couple guys, I'll leave it at that.
Uncertainty is the root of all progress and all growth, and I like that too.
Uncertainty is the root of all progress and all growth.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to think if I can counteract that. Uncertainty is the root of all progress and all growth.
Can you counteract it?
No. I think I understand.
I fully understand it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, boy, am I just taking that on board? Am I just taking that?
We just come back from,
and that's some of the questions I was going to ask on terms of.
Uncertainty is.
I'll get. Anyway, I've got the question laid up, lined up. So I'll get to it.
And you kicking in, boy.
Manson's law of avoidance. The more something threatens your identity, the more you will avoid it. This is why people are often afraid of success.
That's true, for me.
Yeah. No,
Sorry, say that again?
It goes on further to say, what, the Manson's law bit?
Yeah, go on.
Manson's law of avoidance. The more something threatens your identity, the more you will avoid it. And further on down, this is why people are often afraid of success. For the exact same reason they're afraid of failure. It threatens who they believe to themselves. And that's on page 137. And I was actually noted, Mace, can you relate? And you know why I'm going to ask that.
Right.
Do you want me to air it?
What? Just give me some Morse code real quick.
Can you relate though? On a serious note, can you relate to that?
Pete, can you relate?
Nah, let Mace on.
I know exactly what you're referring to.
No, I'm just asking if you can relate in your personal life.
The more something threatens your identity, the more you avoid it. I think everyone can relate to it.
But this is why people are often afraid of success for the exact same reason they're afraid of failure. It threatens who they believe themselves to be. Mace, can you relate?
No.
Liar! Lies!
No, I think this is a serious question, right?
I'm being
this is a very, very serious
bro.
question. So I highlighted that as well. I wasn't too sure exactly. I mean, the notes I've wrote here, just very brief notes, were not everyone's going to like or agree with you, so be yourself. And I know this book generally says this type of stuff like, we all know you're only going to live once and stuff like that. And I know at the very end of the book he speaks about some of the experiences.
You know what? He also talks about, I can't remember, I'd have to go back into the book, but leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
With your name on the
Funny enough, that's exactly what. Well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
I've said I've preached that.
Yeah, I know you know what you do. Yeah, so preaching,
and it goes back to my thing about what are we here for? What's this life? Like, we carry the gun, like, and I preached that.
Yeah, he also says just do it.
What, you're not working for Nike?
Nah, I don't know if he's working. What's his name? Mark Manson. I'm not too sure whether he's working for Nike, but I know he just says it. Mark Manson, just do it. BCR questions. How do I? Just do it. Just do it.
Time to shift to the night time on Monday.
Mace, you're not answering the question.
No, I did say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you?
No more.
Yeah, man. Bully boy tactics over here, man.
I find that a funny concept.
You might even answer the questions either.
Yeah, because I was asking the question. Moving on. In this way, knowing yourself or finding yourself can be dangerous. It can cement you into a strict role and saddle you with unnecessary expectations. It can close you off to inner potential and outer opportunities. I say, don't find yourself. I say, never know who you are, because that's what keeps you striving and discovering. And it's forced you to remain humble in your judgments and accepting of the difference in others. Do you accept or reject this train of thought? That's to either one of you.
Sorry, just go.
He's talking about not finding
yourself.
Yeah,
so basically not finding yourself.
Nah, I totally understand it because I know he was talking about. So go on.
No, that's not.
like yes and no. I mean,
Don't
I think
sit on the fence.
no, I'm not gonna sit on the fence. No, because I think like obviously,
his son.
so like obviously I've gone traveling, not necessarily to find myself, to experience things. All right, but I know the common phrase is go and find yourself. All right, and going by that phrase, I think it's really, really important to understand yourself. But I mean, as he mentioned in the book, and I don't want to use or hold into every phrase. Not everything is certain in life, and I think as long as you understand that, then I think you'll be cool.
So do you accept or reject this train of thought?
I think I accept.
What would you guys, if you could define finding yourself? Can you put a definition on it? Do you think? Because because it's might be a difficult question. Before I say that, it's because I think it's important to stand for stuff, to have morals, to have principles. And I think that's all part of finding yourself, knowing yourself. Yeah. I know what he's getting at, but if you're saying don't find yourself, it's going to be like a chicken. Endless chicken.
I definitely accept that. I think the point he's trying to get to is
this kind of happy medium.
Definitely happy.
Where you're still willing to accept and take on board new information, new thoughts, new process. At the same time, stand for something within yourself to distinguish stuff that doesn't agree with you, and to have a degree of personality almost. Yeah. This is me. This is what I stand for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I was saying. Don't sit on the fence, because I personally, I will say I reject this train of thought, but I understand what you mean in terms of, like, I'll have my core values and I have my core understanding, but I'm not going to be ignorant to that there's more knowledge out there for me to learn. So I'm willing to listen to what you've got to say, but I'm not going to just easily and readily accept what you have to say.
Which kind of leads me to my point is, you'll never be complete, which I think is the notion, by and large, I think he tries to carry, I'll say, through the book in regards to not necessarily closing off new information or questioning your values and stuff like that. So you may go off and travel and pick up some new pick up some new values as such, but at the same time, try not to, you're never going to completely find yourself, and up until the day you die, you'll be still absorbing new information depending on obviously how your outlook on
I
life.
like what you said about you'll never be complete, and you can't anyway, even if you think you are. Do you know why? Because even if you think you're complete, the world's not complete.
Yeah, of course.
20 years ago, internet, all these things, our parents have had to adjust and adapt with emails at work and all the rest of it. That's why you can never be complete. That's another good point you've raised inadvertently, that you'll never be complete, because guess what? The world is never complete.
And it's always evolving.
Yeah, so you have to adapt and adjust.
So I don't know, you're moving on.
I was gonna
round
up on that kind of subject. So.
Do you mind if I just move back to the episode just quickly? Because I know he talks about, this relates to myself and may relate to Mason as well, because I know we were talking about, I forget what it was, the phrase. But he talks about obviously having a friend who was an artist, I think it was, who was a great artist, who would constantly obviously put either put out new projects, whether it's on a website and stuff like that, and not put out, he will put them together but will never actually launch them as such. And I think what I kind of took from it is that, and I think what he sums up is just put it out, and
just start with what you've got.
Start with what you've got.
Start you are. Basically start with what you have done. You might be 85% of the way and be like, actually, just start with what you got, and you never know what will come off that. Do you know what I mean?
Because I think the situation or the problems I tend to have is I might be working on something and then I'm looking for perfection, which actually doesn't really exist. Or I might have the concept in my mind and then I'm forever evolving that concept again and again and again. It never gets to the stage where you're actually ready to kind of roll it out. So, sentence really is, it will never be perfect.
I just wanted to round that off with the last couple quotes, really.
Cool.
And one is from Aristotle, which wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Being able to look at and evaluate different values without necessarily adopting them is perhaps the central skill required in changing one's own life in a meaningful way." And that's on page 143.
That's a good quote, man.
Yeah, and that summarizes how I feel about it. To take on more information, but not necessarily.
I like the way you break down the books, French man. It feels like sometimes I listen to when you break it down, it feels like I ain't read the same book. I ain't even lying. I'm not even lying, bro.
Just lastly, because it did throughout this chapter ask a few questions that may breed uncertainty in your life, and these are questions that you can ask yourself to kind of help with that. And the first one is, what if I'm wrong? The second one being, what would it mean if I were wrong? And the third being, would being wrong create a better or worse problem than my current problem for both myself and others? Now that's just something to think about. 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 Something to think about.